Just a little over a year ago, 35 students embarked on a journey to the island of Fiji, oblivious to the adventures and experiences they were about to encounter. We were nervous and excited at the same time. Many of us had never been to a more undeveloped region of the world before, so we did not know what to expect. We did know that we were in Fiji for a reason. Although we had the opportunity to partake in some tourist activities, we were in Fiji to learn. We were there to learn about sustainability and urban and environmental health. We were there to learn about the struggles that individuals in Vatua village and the greater Fijian population faced on a daily basis.
Why did you go to Fiji?
Let me think about that.
I went to Fiji because I felt that if I didn't study abroad, I would be missing something really important, and I would always regret it. I studied abroad in Fiji in particular because it was the shortest program available, and as a mother with 2 kids, going away for 3 weeks wasn't really an option, and the week in Fiji fulfilled my requirement for my anthropology degree.
So the cool thing about Fiji, though, is that you can see climate change in action, as you can't in many other places. That's one reason I was very excited to go to Fiji.
I knew I wanted to go someplace where it was completely different from the U.S., and I knew that it would be a great experience. However, I didn't know what that experience was until I got off the plane and actually saw what the definition of a third world country is.
I decided to go on the Fiji trip because it's a place where I've always wanted to go to, yet I've read so much about it beforehand that I wanted to experience not just the luxurious vacation side of Fiji, but to go in there and experience the people and the way they live and what their culture is like compared to ours and mine too, just because mine can be different from how people live here still in America. So I thought it'd be interesting because of that.
I didn't actually choose to go to Fiji. I was mainly attracted to Australia, and the fact that Fiji was an add-on was amazing, and why not? Who's going to be opposed to going to Fiji?
Because I wanted to go on an adventure. Regardless of the differing circumstances that drove every student to Fiji, everyone on ASU's Global Health Study Abroad program still walked away from the trip transformed. The transformation was experienced differently by everyone, but we all arrived home motivated to make an impact on the lives of the wonderful villagers we met in Fiji.
What were your experiences like in the village?
When we got there, one of the first things we got to do was a kava ceremony, which threw us and immersed us immediately in the Fijian culture, which that was kind of mind-blowing as a Westerner because culturally we're very private here and we kind of are isolated and kind of our own like family units. And yeah, people mingle, but these people didn't even know us, and not only did they immerse us in their culture and their traditions and their customs, but they immersed us in their homes, and they went out of their way to make sure that we felt welcome and that we felt comfortable?
The people were incredibly welcoming. I, again, didn't know what to expect, being a Western individual coming into this indigenous culture. But they were incredibly welcoming, very open, hospitable, very curious to know about myself in terms of what it is I'm doing, what's my family like, and things like that. So that was quite a pleasant surprise and really nice.
They welcomed us with open arms. They're such amazing people. They don't judge you for who you are, what you have, what you look like, or anything like that, which we probably get that a lot here, just walking into a grocery store. They welcome everybody.
So when we first arrived in Motua village in the afternoon, we were immediately welcomed. I automatically felt like I was just a part of their village, their culture. They just accepted me and all the people I was on the trip with open arms. So right after we were engaged in the kava ceremony, we went straight to our host family's houses. They had prepared a lunch for us, probably working all morning from what we saw. All really fresh food that they had mostly, grown themselves, made themselves from scratch. So just that they took that time to provide for us when they had so little just made me care a lot, made me want to help them in any way that I could.
The village was a really amazing experience. It's unusual for us to open our homes just to random people and say, hey, come on in, stay with us. But in Fiji, they just opened up everything. There are a lot of moments where I felt like a confidant. And people don't allow, people don't allow other people in like that. In the way that I was welcomed in Fiji was truly remarkable.
Being in the village and experiencing it and experiencing their hospitality, you get to realize that these are real people, and friendships form. And so when you begin to see some of the things they lack, it becomes personal.
While the people were very nice and open and welcoming, it was also difficult from my perspective to see sometimes the conditions in which they live. While they shared everything that they had with us, they still were limited in what they had.
But when it comes to medicine, I think that's something that hits home. We can think about their culture being different than ours, but when we see them dying at a younger age than many people that we know, that's when it starts to feel like we need to do something.
The more immersed we became in the Fijian experience, the more we learned about the villagers' lack of access to basic medical and hygienic supplies. Bonding with the villagers, as Dr. Wetmore mentioned, made their struggle personal to us, which motivated us to action upon our return home. Furthermore, my injury opened our group's eyes further as to the struggles the Fijian people face. I broke my foot on our first day in Fiji, and I was unable to have it properly casted until I returned to the States. My struggle to move around was emphasized by the lack of wheelchairs and crutches in Motua village. Although a pair of crutches was eventually found in the village, getting around in such rocky and uneven terrain was treacherous at times. The island of Fiji has been inhabited for nearly 3,500 years by indigenous Fijians, which are descendants of Malaysians and Polynesians. The country transitioned, though, to a British rule reluctantly in 1874. Ultimately, this transition and a measles epidemic that wiped out 1/3 of the Fijian population put Fiji on the path to political and governmental instability. As a result, ethnopolitics prevails in Fiji, which is one of the reasons why the country has been occupied by 6 different coups over the past few decades. Attempts to acquire more political stability were made in 1970, when Fiji acquired its independence from Britain. However, this did little to prevent governmental coup occupation from occurring in 1977. Although the last military coup occurred in December 2006, the country struggles to provide for its own. The political instability in Fiji explains why there is a lack of public infrastructure in Fiji and why we saw what we saw. Lack of public infrastructure is why there is a lack of access to more advanced forms of medical treatment to the Fijian public, and why many of the small villagers lack access to basic medical and hygienic supplies. After our life-changing week stay in Fiji, we returned home determined to create some sort of lasting impact on the people that had made such an impact on us. As a result, a few of the students from the trip and myself came together to organize a fundraising campaign for the villagers in Fiji. Our organization raised nearly $4,600, which was both incredibly exciting yet daunting at the same time.
I was sort of monitoring the money as it was being raised, and I got more and more nervous because I knew as it was being raised we would never be able to spend that amount of money just in the village. So the idea was to try to figure out how to spread it farther. What are the best ways to reach a broad number of people? And it's tricky because things that we think they lack are not necessarily things that they want or would need, or a variety of other things.
In order to institutionalize our campaign and to make the money we generated have a broader impact on the island, students from the fundraising campaign and myself came together to create a new campus organization called Funds for Fiji at ASU. The goal of this organization is to be handed down from the most recent study abroad alumni to the next group of students returning from Fiji, so that we can be considered a reliable source of aid for the villagers. Having spent the past 5 years at ASU studying anthropology and sustainability, though, I began to more deeply analyze our organization's attempts to help those in the underdeveloped world. For years, I have been learning about Western intervention and how the Western response does little to help the plight of those in underdeveloped regions of the world. Westerners often go to areas they claim to be experts in and implement impractical and unrealistic solutions. Dr. James Eder, a cultural anthropologist, teaches international development and sustainability at ASU. His research experience and fieldwork has shown him firsthand how Western attempts to throw money at problems in the third world does little to fix anything.
I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is that inefficiency and waste and corruption and money that's just not well spent. Personally, I've only once or twice or maybe 3 times, I guess I'd have to sit down and think, come up against projects that were really poorly designed. But that too.
Dr. Wetmore made similar observations in his field of work as well.
So the most common thing that I see is that the outsiders decide what the problem is before they even get to the place. And that is usually the root of most of their failures. Because if the local people don't see the same problems that the outsiders see, the local people will have no desire to adopt the solutions that the outsiders see.
Was our project just throwing money at the people in Fiji? Was our program just another westernized attempt to help the third world? Was our reaction to our experiences and program sustainable?
Yeah, so right now, if I was to have to give my official definition, I don't think this is sustainable. Okay. And the major reason is we are providing assistance, and an assistance that's wanted and desired, but I don't know that we are creating a situation where they can continue to do this without us. We're empowering them by actually relying on their skills and giving them things that they know how to use. But I don't know that we have created something where if we all stepped away, it would continue to go the way it is.
I guess I'm agnostic on whether it's sustainable or not. I just don't. I think it has the potential to be sustainable, okay, which is probably more than I would say for a lot of projects. I worry a little about the sort of the institutional memory here, and the commitment to the project.
I know that the program and that what we're trying to do will really benefit them. I know that they're going to be getting supplies they would never ordinarily be able to afford, or we'll be able to send nurses to training from across the island. So there's so many different benefits, they almost do outweigh the negatives, in my westernized perspective anyways. But I don't know, it always becomes a tricky situation when you swoop in and you think, I can really help these people, when they might not have needed our help in the first place. I don't think that we should ever go in there with the idea that we want to fix something, because it's not broken. We just want to supplement what they don't have or don't have access to.
You could potentially make this more sustainable in the long term. In the short term, however, there are clear benefits, and they can't be underplayed either.
Even though the Funds for Fiji concept and organization is something I helped create, I don't think it's sustainable. There's an increasing amount of indigenous knowledge and indigenous health practices going extinct. So that is a potential unintended consequence of this project becoming institutionalized. If this source of medical aid is constant and reliable and easy to rely on, there is a possibility that there are traditional approaches to dealing with certain things and using herbs and leaves to treat things how they've treated things for thousands of years. There is a slight possibility that those customs and traditions could go extinct. Another aspect that is a trade-off associated with this project is, yeah, we're bringing in medical aid, but the type of medical aid that we have here in the Western world, a lot of it's disposable. They don't have basic services such as trash removal. It doesn't exist. If we do bring this aid in, that's going to be an unintended consequence, is that we're going to be contributing to probably pollution. Admitting that the program I helped create wasn't necessarily sustainable was difficult for me to swallow. However, taking the time to analyze and ask why our program wasn't entirely sustainable brought to light a variety of suggestions by my peers as to what we can do in the future to become more sustainable and holistic.
The development projects that really do succeed by bringing in outside technology are the ones that work very closely with understanding the local cultures, the local people, and actually having the local cultures and local people involved in deciding what the problems are that need to be solved. I think I was excited about this Fiji project because nobody decided what the problem was until we got there. And it was in close consultation with the village nurse to figure out what she wanted, what she felt would be useful. And that was really the first big step in pulling this whole thing together. So we wanted to make sure that she had that there was somebody there that was looking for what it was we might be able to offer.
But I'd like to hear more somehow from the people themselves about what it is they need, what their felt needs are. And so it's, maybe they're obvious enough. I thought the money was well spent. Okay. And I'm thinking very close to the ground data here, like when, Jamie Wetmore and I went into the pharmacy, and bought 10 bottles of this and 5 tubes of that and a blood pressure monitor and the glucose monitor, and that's about as direct, that's relatively labor intensive, but it was certainly easy enough to do. But I don't think there wasn't much waste in that project, so in that sense, and I'm confident that all of that will be used. And at what point would it make more sense to move to a higher level, higher order in the system, like the hospital, for example, without losing the personal connection or personal focus on the village. And that's another issue in the sustainability, because I think part of the appeal in terms of recruiting people on this end to the cause, it is this personal, up close to the ground appeal. We're not just helping the Fijian healthcare system, you're helping particular people in a particular place.
Having some sort of on-the-ground, continual connection between the people in the villages, if we're talking about Batu in this case, and the medical facilities themselves is important. So it's sort of becoming an outreach sort of concern. However, the problem is we are around the world. And so finding, again, maybe that liaison or a key organization in Fiji that is sort of the on-the-ground, grassroots individuals that could potentially pick up the ball and keep it going because they are there, they have the connections, can make the connections. And it seems to me that this will help, but something more needs to be done in that country with their own infrastructure and their own healthcare system. It's a broader problem because I'm willing to bet that Vatua is not the only village that's facing these problems of access, of supplies, of money. It's far larger than that. And that's where I think it becomes more of a countrywide concern than simply a local concern. And that is something as students that you can't address.
Even though the Funds for Fiji campaign is not entirely sustainable, the program we created was not a stereotypical Western response, because it helps people in need with their direct input. In order to be more sustainable, though, and to broaden the impact of our organization, we need to be more flexible and adaptive by broadening who is involved in the change we are trying to make. Not limiting involvement to ASU students and faculty is one method in which we can go about creating a more lasting impact. Broadening this involvement needs to also include individuals who are either in the village or in contact with the local people. Establishing contact with the local people is essential to our program's success, because this will ensure that our money is used to purchase products people actually need. Overall, the future for the Funds for Fiji organization is bright, as long as students are willing to become involved in this project. Next year, our goal is to expand the amount of people we are able to impact besides the 308 villagers in Vatua Village. We plan on doing this by helping to pay for transportation costs nurses acquire traveling to different parts of Fiji. The 2015 study abroad group recently toured the Sigatoka Hospital, and the head doctor at this hospital made a suggestion that our group figure out a way to help cover nurse transportation costs. Helping pay for transportation costs is a much more realistic and sustainable investment that has great potential to benefit the lives of many in Fiji.
The people of Fiji work really, really hard, and they work in most of the resorts that you and I would go visit if we were to go there, where we see the beautiful beachfront properties and ride the kayaks and do all the wonderful things that people write home about. But they don't get to experience those things because they work all day and then they go home and take care of their families. And they work 7 days a week, and in one day they make about $10, which is about what we pay for one drink while we're there. So if you can imagine, that's very hard to live off of. So it's not that they don't try and it's not that they don't work hard, they just don't have the opportunity. And so by us doing this campaign, we are providing that opportunity for them.
It's crazy to know that somebody is struggling so much somewhere and we can make a difference. We can change that if we really want to.